So first I have to put down the transparent positives in order to create the stencil with the photo emulsion. So here I am putting the printouts onto the light table, and then I grab my coated screen that's been dried with the emulsion and kept in the dark, and I place that onto the light table over the transparent positives, and they're right reading so that when I print them they are the correct way. And then I expose the screen while the vacuum is going in order to ensure a nice clean tight print, a stencil with really crisp edges. So I don't want any air or space between the positive, the printout, and the screen mesh. And then when that's done, I take it over to the sink and I wash off the emulsion, and where it has been exposed to the light, that's where it hardens, and then where the black has blocked out the light, that is where I can wash out the emulsion and create my stencil. So that's where the ink can pass through. And that's why we call it a transparent positive, because the black that we print out is what we ultimately want to print the ink. And it can be any color. I'll probably print these black and white, depending on what I am, what background shirt or paper I'm printing on. And you can see I'm giving it a little scrub with the sponge just so that all that emulsion comes out of the mesh, because it's a pretty tight mesh. It's like 270, I think, is the mesh count. So I get a nice detail quality. And when that's done, you can see that the screen has been exposed and the image is there ready for printing. So I've got it put into the press, and I'm going to be using this t-shirt press, and the screen is hinged so that it always lands in the same place every time. I flood the screen with ink so that the ink goes into the mesh. Then I push it down and do that a couple times, because on fabric you really want a really good coat. If you don't have enough ink, it's going to look sort of pale, and it's not going to be nice and solid, and that's because the fabric absorbs the ink more than paper would. So there's my first shirt, and then I just keep going and going and going, and you'll see me printing the rest of these. So I'm printing white ink onto dark fabric, and I do have to print a couple times for each image. So you see I'm flooding, and then I'm pressing, and then I'm flooding, and then I'm squeezing it down like 3 times at least. And that's because I need a lot of ink on there, so it's nice and solid. And then the hinge, the screen stays in the hinge, and I can just lift it up and keep printing. Put down a new shirt and make sure it's nice and flat. And I do have some light spray, like a tacky glue on the press bed, so that the t-shirt will hopefully stick to that and not stick to the screen where the ink is nice and sticky. So I'm got a little, but that way I could print multiple colors and not have to worry about the t-shirt moving in between layers. And then ultimately I'll have to heat set the ink. So when they're dry, because I'm using water-based ink, I need to use either a heat gun or I'll throw them in the dryer on a high cycle, and that will set the ink and ensure that it's cured and not going to flake off when you wash the garment. And some inks, like plastisol ink, you have to heat in order to dry them, but with water-based ink, they'll just dry through the air and get absorbed in the t-shirt. The only reason I would really want to heat set is so that I was gonna wash it and it wouldn't come off. So here I go, lots and lots of printing. I think I printed about 100 shirts that day. Women's shirts, tank tops, men's shirts. So I can be quite efficient.